This podcast has mature language, not intended for underage viewers.
Street cred sports. Street cred sports. I'm crossing over. I'm Euro stepping.
Hello, this is Keenan of Street Cred Sports Training, and welcome to another episode of Time to Ball. Yo, this is episode 39. We close to a whole full year. Well, not like too close, but we coming. We are coming. 39. All right. Hope everybody is doing well. I know I'm starting to get excited. I can't believe I'm saying I'm starting to get excited for fall, just because it's not like 103 or 4 degrees. The sun let us know that is running shit because we had like another week like 102, 103 degree temperature. So I want to say shout out to all of our parents and kids who have dealt with this heat with us as we've trained in the summer. I personally I feel like I've done as much as I could, everything I could to try to help keep the place somewhat manageable. I know I spent, the whole summer getting up and going into the facility early to try to cool it down. So I just want to say thanks for hanging there with us. I know they were we were giving them extra breaks and stuff just to make sure we weren't training in no 100-degree temperatures. If it was going to be 118, I kind of know the calculations of how hot it's going to be in there. And if it's going to be, over a certain amount, I just cancel trainings. It's not that major. Safety is always a priority. So shout out to the parents and kids, and shout out to my trainers for, sticking with us in the summer. They could have easily said, yeah, I'm not training this summer. I'm going to go work for an ice cream truck company or for an ice company. Call me back in October when it's cooler in there. But it's not like blazing hot. But, I mean, when it was really getting there, I had to kind of adjust times because it was a little too much even for me. And I love the hot. I'm a tropical person. But, yeah, I'm so glad to get these 89s and 90s. I'm feeling good now. Well, let me get on to some things that's been on my mind. First thing I want to talk about, and this is actually a topic I've had, centered to discuss on this show since about the second or third week that I started back doing podcasts. It's about moving the goalpost. So what do I mean when I say moving the goalposts? What I'm talking about specifically is talk show analysts. They keep things going and don't admit to being wrong. Well, like they might say, hey, this team is not good, right? So then when you know what? Let me give you an example. The talk has been with LeBron James, okay? When LeBron James was at Cleveland, he couldn't win. Those were, he can't win a championship. He's not good enough to win a championship. So then LeBron James moves his talents to South Beach, as he said. He plays with Miami, has a star-studded crew, and they go to the finals 4 years in a row. They win 2 of them. So then the narrative changes to, yeah, he won, but he had to go and have those guys, right? So then LeBron James goes back to Cleveland, and he wins the first championship there for the city of Cleveland. And he goes to the finals there 4 times in a row. And then they said, well, he needed Kyrie Irving to hit the shot in order for him to win the championship. So then he leaves Cleveland. He goes to the Lakers. They won a championship in the COVID era, in the bubble. And that was dismissed as, it was COVID, so it didn't count. And then this year, after they were pretty much dead in the water, made a few changes, and they get all the way to the Western Conference Finals, where they lost to the better team. So it was always something else. So this is what I mean when I say moving the goalposts. Sometimes you got to admit, I was wrong on that. Say it with me, everybody. Sometimes it's good to admit I was wrong on that. I admit it if I'm wrong. I don't want to be the person, well, I'm never wrong, or I'm rarely wrong. That's what people do. That's how they move the goalposts, is they don't admit they're wrong, and then they try to hit you with something to make themselves seem right, which is delusional. And I've always said, I can't have a conversation with somebody who feels like they're never wrong, and they're always putting something else into the mix that they didn't put in the mix before, right? Oh, well, this person's never hit a game-winning shot. Then they hit a game-winning shot, and it's like, oh, yeah, but they weren't down. What the hell does that mean? Game-winning shot is game-winning shot, whether you down one or it's a tie game. You still won the game with that shot. And it's just amazing how the goalpost is moved a lot. And it's gotten tiring. It's gotten old. And there are some shows, because I always try to educate myself with what's going on in the world, in sports, and in life. And there are some people that I'm just like, I'm not listening to these people, whether it's a podcast, whether it's a talk show. I just don't, I can't listen to people who continually try to stir up stuff by moving the goalposts. Okay. Now, I don't know how y'all feel. I just, it's old. Like, man, like, you're showing it goes into, it kind of, starts to leak into strong dislike and hate of an individual or a team or whatever, because that place can never do anything right, no matter what they do. So we got to stop moving the goalpost on everything. Admit if something was right, if you're right or wrong. It's like I said, it's nothing wrong with actually admitting that you're wrong on something. It's refreshing. So yeah, that's bad. It is real bad. Okay, so next thing I'm gonna talk about is, we give labels and we talk about top tier quarterbacks. And what we say about, what people say about top tier quarterbacks, this 5, top quarterbacks or 10 top quarterbacks. What I'm going to talk about when I talk about top tier quarterbacks is really, I'm just going to talk about if you're paid, right? If you're paid as one of the elite QBs, what does that mean? Now, I'm getting into the Dallas Cowboy game versus the New York Giants. I was not expecting that game to go how it went. It was one of those from Anchorman. Wow, that escalated quickly. That game was over. It was over even before it was over. I mean, it was over. The way the game was trending, it felt like that game was over in that first quarter. Although I watched to the half, just because I was like, you know what, well, let's give them an opportunity, because in sports, anything can happen. Just like you get down that fast, you can make some good plays, score quickly, put some pressure, and get back in the game. But that never happened. So what am I referencing when I talk about top tier quarterbacks? Well, I'm speaking of Daniel Jones, because I was book one. Hey, they went to the playoffs. Daniel Jones had, he was able to get them to the playoffs. He looked good coming out of offseason. They boast about the new toys he had. Everything's restructured. He signs a new contract. He's paid a lot more money. Okay, so now if you're paid a lot more money, then in my eyes, you're putting that top tier quarterback. Well, for me, and this is just for me, y'all might be different. A top tier quarterback don't struggle really hard. let me rephrase it. Top tier quarterbacks, in my opinion, don't struggle as much against really good teams. They struggle. It's going to be harder, but they're going to figure it out. They're going to find ways to do what they need to do. So, in essence, a top tier quarterback against a number one rated defense might not have 400 or 500 yards, right? But they probably are going to have somewhere between 200 and 300 yards, maybe a couple of touchdowns. They're going to move the chains. They're going to make the throws that are like, you know what? That's a top tier quarterback throw. They're not going to have any interceptions. If they do, okay, of course they might have one. Could, maybe they have a couple. But when it gets down to it, they're going to be the reason that team, had an opportunity to win or wins. Okay? Now, this is how I feel. Now, Daniel Jones struggled mightily against the Cowboys, and he has continued. So, on one hand, I could say, you know what? Maybe Dallas just has his number. He's just, if he had to play against the Cowboys more than twice a year, he probably wouldn't have got his contract, right? But he did get his contract, and, he's making his money, but he did not look like a top-tier QB. And you'll hear people, oh, well, it was in the rain. Yeah, well, Dak was in the rain. Now, Dak didn't have the level of urgency, that Daniel Jones had because, they were up on him. But at the same time, Dak did nothing to allow the Giants to get back in the game. There were throws. There were some things that wasn't his fault, obviously. One of the interceptions, had nothing to do with it. But he looked like he was, I don't want to say scared. He just didn't look comfortable. Now, that Dallas defense is really stout. But in my opinion, if you are a top-tier quarterback, yeah, you're gonna take your lumps, but you good. That first drive they had looked relatively promising. But then after, the field goal was blocked, and they ran it back touchdown, and then they had a fumble, then they had, another, a pass that was hit, and receiver caught it. Diggs hit the receiver. It was wet. Ball pops out. The defensive back for the Cowboys catches it in stride. Like, look what I found. Runs it back for a touchdown. So it was a lot of adversity. But in my opinion, top-tier quarterbacks, we good. We good. And you've seen it throughout history. You've had guys who've had adversity. We good. We good. We coming back. I mean, Mahomes did it against the Eagles in the Super Bowl, and that was a great game. You saw Brady do it against the Atlanta Falcons. Sorry, Falcons fans. I hate to bring it up. I'm just kind of on top of my head. So those are just a couple examples where, hey, we good, man. They up, they doing their thing, but I'm good. Just give me the ball. So I think, my opinion, I wouldn't put him in the top tier quarterbacks. Now, paid like one, maybe, and I ain't mad at him about it. But for me, I can't put him in there until look, I don't care what you do rest of this year. You could go and be 16-1 or whatever. You could win a Super Bowl. But you got to go down in Dallas and show people why they paid. You got to show me why they paid you that money. Not other people. You got to show me. You got to go down there and do to them on a surface and in a stadium where there's no weather, messing you up. You got to give it to them. That's the way I feel. And if you do that, now I might be able to say, hey, you know what? I think he is in that top tier. All right, so I do want to touch on Aaron Rodgers. It was very, 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 very unfortunate what happened to him. And, there are certain injuries that happen in sports. Me coming up, ACL was the thing. Now it's getting into Achilles. Achilles. And there are other injuries, obviously, but ACLs and Achilles are like two really devastating. Other ones, you're out, require surgery and lots of time off, but you're seeing more of these types of injuries. And the biggest thing, and I even made a comment on Facebook, and I was posing a question, and I guess when I look back at it, it looked like I was trying to make a statement, but I was kind of posing a question, and then I got more context. When I initially saw because the offensive line had been a point of contention for the Jets, like how's the offensive line going to hold up? Now, against really good defenses, hey, if they're just better than that person that's trying to block them, they're going to find a way to get through. Initially, when I saw the play after they showed it again, at first, from the angle they showed it, it looked like he just got whipped and he fell, right? Then, looking at it at a different angle, I was like, you know what? It looks like he was trying to chop block him. And then there was information that came out that, it was supposed to be a quick 3-step drop pass. And then even today, there was more information coming out. And like, I don't know what's true or what's not. But there was more information about, Aaron not really liking the chop block. So reason I'm bringing this up is because people were killing that offensive lineman. But that's because people don't really know and understand the context in the play. After I looked at it from a different angle, and I was like, you know what? No, that looked like more like a chop block. And it looked like he just got beat. And it was, how could you get beat that easy, unless it was just, footing or something like that. But in any case, he was being blamed. But, unless you were in the huddle, you'd understand that was a 3-step drop. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with what I'm saying, a 3-step drop is when, quarterback takes, they hike the ball to the quarterback. He takes 3 steps back, and then the ball is out. It's a quick route, right? And it's designed to get the ball out, kind of keep the defense from being over-aggressive. You get those, little screen passes, those little quick slants, quick outs. Those kind of plays will, if you're gashing the defense where you get 15, 20 yards here, 10, 12 yards on there, defense starts to have to change because they're giving up big plays, and that's what defenses don't want to do. They want to keep everything in front of you. So that was the consensus, from offensive linemen and from coaches, that it was a 3-step drop, and then it was like, well, he held on to the ball too quick. Now, I don't know what he was going on in his mind. I'm simply saying it's not what you always think it is. There was other dynamics going on. So maybe Aaron had to hold the ball longer than he wanted to because linebacker or cornerback or something was reading what he was looking at doing, and maybe Aaron needed to wait another second or two before that play opened up. So it's very unfortunate that he's going to be out. And me personally, I don't think that he's done. You can't be done. Not him, not with his mentality. He's going to rehab, get his body ready, and it could. I know he's older, but it could be good taking a year off, not getting hit, beat, and stuff. He gets to get his body in ultimate shape, strength, come back and be able to play again. Nobody wants to end their career on an injury and they never step on the field again. That, unless it's the type of career-ending injury where you can't play, health-wise. But no, you want to go back in and play. So I'm rooting for him, obviously. I've always loved me some Aaron Rodgers. I think, personally, he's the greatest thrower of the football. Him and Dan Marino are right there. I didn't say the best quarterback, winner and stuff, but, I saw him throw passes where I remember Richard Sherman and the other DBs looking at each other like how the hell did he get that ball right there? If you don't believe, look at some of his highlights earlier. Look at how he throw that ball. Man, he's exceptional. Dan Marino is another one that threw that ball like that. But he wasn't as mobile as Aaron Rodgers. So, and I loved his belt celebration. I've always loved it. It's like one of my top ones, almost like with Deion's dancing. All right, so I have a question for y'all. My question is, how can you peak in the first week of a football season? Yeah, I'm asking. It was an actual story that stated that Colorado possibly peaked. I don't even know if they said possibly, but it was it kind of left it open ended, so it didn't sound like they were saying he peaked. But it came across as like, yeah, they peaked on week 1. Man, I have never heard that you could peak on. What are you actually referencing that from? There's no preseason in college football. You have a spring game that you play back in spring, so you don't get to play. So how does a team peak? I don't get that. That to me is moving the goalpost. A little bit of hate. I don't know why. I mean, well, actually, I do know why, but I'm not going to get off into that. But you can't peak after the first week of the season. Now, can teams peak earlier in the season? Absolutely. I've seen teams do really well their 4th, 5th, and maybe 6th game, and then they start to not look as good. You don't know why it happens and what it's about, but I know that's happened. I've seen it happen. But after the first week, no. Plus, my question was, so man, they must have had a really good drop off, because the next game, they win, and they win that one convincing against, what the analysts and pundits said was a better defensive team that was probably going to beat them. So it's odd. I'll just use the term odd. I don't think I've ever seen an article that says that a team peaked after their first game. If it is, let me know. Hit me up in the comment section or send me an article, because I ain't seen it. I ain't never heard of it. So that's bull. I'll just leave it at that. All right, so I'm going to get to my basketball ideology. And what I'm going to talk about is the question I'm going to pose to y'all is, how many games should kids play? I'm going to speak when it comes to basketball. How many games should kids play basketball in a weekend? Let's just go in a weekend, not even a season. How many of y'all think? I personally think maybe 1. 2 at the most, if you're playing one day and then the next day you're playing another day, right? Maybe in another league or something, or I don't know. If you're in a tournament, it's usually a good tournament spreads your games out. So you might play 4 to 5 games in a weekend. And you might play 1 on Friday, maybe 2 on Saturday, and then you get into pool play. So if you're good enough to make it to the championship, you might play another 2 or 3. Okay. I get that. And that's usually spread out. I've had parents coming to me telling me about their kids playing 5 games in one day. And some of them played a couple of back-to-back games, then they had to leave and they come back later and they play another game, then they come back later and they play another game. Now, I don't know. I didn't bother to ask if it was all at the same league. I want to say that it was a combination of different leagues. Some was maybe a tournament, different leagues at different locations. So what I've talked to parents about is, you gotta manage that, and honestly, coaches, parents, it needs to be managed, because what I have had to do in the past few weeks is not allow those kids to train, because they're tired, they're exhausted, and their performance with me is going to suffer. Plus, if I have them to ratchet it up and I'm going really, strong and fast on something, if they're tired and they're just really exhausted, that's kind of when you can get hurt, sometimes. So I always err on the side of caution, and, I didn't do it like that. But my question is, how many games should kids play? And here's why I said this. Throughout history, like when I first started, And I was doing Vertimax training. I had a couple of girls that were, I was playing at Hanks. I knew their dad. We did Vertimax training. And we were discussing, he was like, I'm thinking about giving them a break. I think they're starting to be tired and worn out. And then he happened to mention, how many games they were playing. And it added up for a calendar year. I believe it added up to between 62 and maybe 75 games that the daughter had played basketball or in a calendar year. Now that's between high school, maybe in city and travel. Professionals are playing, NBA professionals are playing 82 games a season. That's just regular season. So, the question I pose is, at some point you have to take a step back and look and say, look, we're going to commit to playing one game, I don't know, Saturday or whatever. We'll practice once. You need to practice, but then I hear that some teams are practicing 5 days a week. And here's the kicker. Here's the kicker is there are some teams that practice 5 days a week, and then they're getting in the games, and the whole season, nothing is changing. They're losing by a large amount every game, but they're practicing 5 days a week. And my question to the parents is, well, what are you guys practicing? And then the parents will say, oh, well, they do a few they'll say bouncing the ball drills. They'll do a couple of shooting drills, and then, they might play. They put them and let them play and they scrimmage. And I asked them, I said, so they're not addressing the things that, that the kids are struggling with while they lose? And then the parent looks at me and like, come to think of it, no. So if you're practicing 5 days a week, you should be really good. I don't care how bad of a group of kids you got. I'm not saying if you just got them the first game, you're going to be spectacular. But towards the middle of the end of the season, you should show a lot of improvement because you're practicing every day. If you're practicing every day and you're playing 3 or 4 games and you're still getting blasted every week, you need to look at something. Something is not adding up. So how does that factor into overuse? Is you're practicing every day and then you're playing 4 or 5 days, So for me, when they asked me the question, how many games do you think? And I said, well, if you're in a tournament, right, I get playing, 5 to 7 games in a weekend, depending on how big the tournament is, how many games you get guaranteed. Because in some tournaments, they'll guarantee 2 games, and then, you start to play. No, they'll guarantee 3 games. Some will guarantee 4, right? It just really depends on the tournament and how many people are in your pool play. I'm not, as if I was a parent today and my parent was on a team, my kid's not playing in multiple leagues. Nah, we want to pick the strongest. If I'm trying to push my kid's going to play on this team. It's the strongest, league with competition. They're going to play on that one. No, I'm not. My kid's not going to play in this league, and then I got to drive across town and play in this league, and I got to drive. And if that's an issue with the coach, and it's gonna, interfere with my kids' playing time because I don't want to play in 5 or 6 or 7 games a weekend, then I'll just respectfully decline and I'll have to do a better job when I put my child on another team and saying, look, this is what my expectation is. I don't care, what's going on. My child will only play in this league. If this league happens to have 2 games this weekend, we're fine. If it's a tournament or playoffs, we're fine. But my child is not playing in multiple leagues because there's burnout. And these kids are getting older and they're, and it's burnout. They get hurt. Their interest, starts to wane because they're doing things that you really shouldn't start to do until you're, high school, even in middle school. In middle school, when you're playing middle school football or basketball, you're not practicing or having a basketball class in middle school. You don't really get on the court until like a week or 2 before basketball season starts in middle school. In high school, you sign up for the basketball class. You can be year round where you do your weight conditioning and stuff. You do some drill work. Sometimes you get put in leagues. You might play in a tournament as a team. So you do a lot of different things in high school. High school is kind of the precursor to what it's going to look like in college with the commitment. So if you're playing high school and you're committing all this time to that, that's a lot. And I'm good with it because you only play really twice a week in high school. Now, when you have those tournaments, yeah, they ramp up, but you only have 2, maybe 3 tournaments in the high school basketball season until you get to playoffs. In between those, it's every one, it's 2 days a week. Normally, it's Tuesdays and Fridays. So I'm good with that. But I don't see any high school teams, coaches saying, hey, he's going to play on the freshman team today. After that, he needs to suit up for the JV, and he's going to play in the JV. And then tomorrow he needs to suit up because he's going to play in the varsity. We're going out of town. Now, I believe in New Mexico, and I think in Texas as well, somebody have to educate me, but I believe you can play. As long as you don't play over a certain amount of quarters, you might be able to play some in the freshman, maybe some in the JV or something, or some in the JV and some in the varsity. I'm not real versed in that, but I can find out. But at the same time, they're not playing 7 games over a weekend. So parents, if as passionately as parents are about getting on other coaches and yelling at them and yelling at the referees, use some of that passion to be sensible and understand that having your kid play 20,000 games in one weekend is probably not good for your kid. No, not 19,998 games will be good, if not 20,000. Keep it sensible. Play, train, not even train, just get better, develop. I'm not saying you got to train with me, but develop, get better, learn from what you're messing up on, and then just kind of keep moving on because, you're putting extra stress on the body, and then you wonder why kids are tired because they're not getting enough kid time. I'm not saying you got to play, what is it, Army. I used to play Army, and I had, monsters and stuff. So I used to play those games outside in the yard and stuff like that. I'm not saying they got to do it all the time, but let a kid be a kid a little bit. Keep them active, but manage it. Because as kids get older, I haven't done any studies, but I'm starting to have a few kids who can play that could have played college. Said they didn't want to play no more. Now, whether that was tied to some other stuff that they went through, I don't know. But these were kids who had been playing since an earlier age. You get tired. You get burnt out. So, I'm looking for the best. I'm not saying that you shouldn't, but yeah, like if I as a parent, mom was like, well, yeah, he played like 3 games yesterday. He's got 2 games. He just had 2 games a day, and now we coming over here to train. And I'm like, I'm not training. Look at him. Look like he's about ready to collapse. So yeah, let him go home and go get sleep. And then the following week, thank you so much. I didn't really realize it. He was so thankful that he was just tired. He needed rest, but sometimes kids will just push because that's what they think they're supposed to do without understanding that, no, you need rest. You need rest. And if the greatest thing about what I do is I have the final say so. I've had parents say, oh no, he'll be here. He's going to come. He's going to do the work, all rough and tough. And I just looked the parent in the eye and said, not if I say no. And then the parent kind of gave me a look, and I was like, no, if I feel that he's, he or she, it was a daughter. I said, if I feel like she's not up to training because she's tired, I'm not training her. If you want to take her somewhere else and let them take your money and not have the best interest of you and your child, they don't have your best interest at heart, go ahead. But I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it because I can tell. And how can I tell? Because I've been doing it for so long. Body language. I tell people all this time, I can read body language from kids. I can read body language from parents. I can tell when they're warming up how they feel. I can tell when they go through the first 3 to 5 minutes of a drill, how they're looking. Yeah, all of that stuff speaks volumes. So I know when the kids are exhausted, and I don't want them there when they're exhausted. It's got to be a reasonable plan. So I'm not going to talk it to death, but I just wanted to make sure, you really understood what I was saying and why, because it affects things, affects their performance and everything out there. But we got bonus content coming up, so stay tuned for that. I appreciate you coming in, and, hey, storms are coming through, and it's cloudy. Wake up, it's a little crispy in the air when I, go outside. I felt a little crispiness. I was loving that. And then I'm like, damn, it's kind of cold out here. I'll be glad when it warm up. No, I'm not going to say that until it's like, forecast to be like, 12 degrees or something. Then I'll be like, okay, all right, now it needs to warm up. But in any case, I hope everybody's enjoying the sports, football, first week, NFL, everything. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Look out for one another. And I'm going to end it like I always do. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it. I'm out.
Street cred sports, say it with your chest. Yeah. Go get it from the net. Street cred sports, okay, that's a bet.